What's going on, everybody? I found an interesting article from on Stefano Tsitsipas that I want to discuss because, as a coach, I actually have a pretty strong opinion on it that you might be surprised about. So, Tsitsipas, I ran across an article here. I'm going to share my screen. If you come on in, let me know what you think. So, what we're going to be talking about today is, should coaching be allowed? And Tsitsipas specifically said he wants it on every point. He thinks coaching should be allowed on every single point of tennis. So as you're coming in, let me know what you think about that. I'm going to find what he had to say here. We're going to share the screen. I'm going to share my thoughts as we read Stefanos' comments. By the way, I'm a big fan of Stefanos. I think he can really, if he wins a Grand Slam, really give tennis a shot in the arm. But he's basically saying the the sport can take a big step forward by doing this. He thinks that this is something that's missing badly in today's game, and I just found it kind of interesting. I'm sure he would have loved to have his coach there when Djokovic was coming back from 2-0 at the French Open. So here's what he says. Here's his exact quote from Twitter. Kind of a cool little logo he's got there. He goes, "Coaching on every point should be allowed in tennis. The sport needs to embrace it. We'll probably we're the one and only global sport that doesn't use coaching during play. Make it legal. It's about time the sport takes a big step forward." So, what do you guys think about that? George Ryan says, "Coaching between every point is called practice." Yeah, I mean, I think that it sounds okay, but I think once in reality it started to happen, it wouldn't be a good thing. It would not be a good thing. And I can think of a million, well, not a million. I can think of about a handful, half a dozen things off the top of my head that I want to discuss that I don't know if Sissipas has thought about. First of all, some coaches, the player, they don't like to hear from them during a match. I know myself when I got playing in a match, and I played college tennis. Probably one of my least. I know it doesn't sound good, but one of my least favorite things was when my coach came to talk to me in between games. I didn't want that extra voice. I didn't like it. So I think that it could do more harm than good from those players that they want to figure things out by themselves and their coach wants to get involved, especially if they're getting involved every single point. Can you imagine? I mean, would you want coaching in between every single point? And Stefano, he may want that and be okay with that and be able to handle that. But then there'd be other players out there who wouldn't want that and they'd have to deal with it the whole match, especially if you had an overbearing parent. Let's say so many of these players on tour, their parents have been very, very involved in their career and they stay their coach. Like, think about Kenan. Imagine if Kenan's dad was allowed to coach in between every point in a match. I think that would be a nightmare. So first of all, besides an overbearing coach, you're probably going to have some overbearing parents that are going to get involved during the match, and it's going to drive the player nuts. They're going to hate it. That to me is a big reason. Let's see here. We've got some comments. We've got some people on here. All right. Thank you for jumping on this. I strongly disagree. First, not every point will drag it out. Yeah, I mean, I think so. Second, the top, besides the top guys, they can't afford coaching, but that's a big point that I wanted to make. So the whole idea of you can have coaching in between every point. Well, first of all, some teams like a Sissipas or a Federer or Nadal, not only do they have one mind, some of them have 3 or 4 coaches up there. So even if one coach isn't seeing something, there's another person on our team can say, "Hey, we should tell them to do this next." And so, if there is some really good coaching going on, certainly it's a disadvantage to a player who's, now you finally got into the main draw of the U.S. Open. Maybe the first time you're ever going to play somebody like Novak Djokovic, and Novak Djokovic has like 3 or 4 coaches there, and you got like your buddy who has been feeding you balls and traveling with you, and you finally made it to the main draw. Like, you don't really have like a legit coach. Okay, certainly not like a 6 or 7 figure coach like some of these top players have. That's not fair. That's not the same level of coaching. Not like, in the NBA where all these coaches are paid millions of dollars. It's not the same. Some of these players can barely afford to get from one tournament to the next, and other players are thriving. So the quality of coaching among all the players is not the same. So that just puts the weaker players who are already at a big disadvantage, huge disadvantage. A lot of these players, they're not going to stay at the nicest hotels and eating the best foods and getting their physio and their massages and, all this stuff going on. Now, that's just one more expense that they can't really afford that they shouldn't have to deal with. So that's another thing that I don't think that, Stefanos is really thinking through this clearly. Another thing, let me read some of your comments here. Coaching would ruin what makes the sport unique. Coaching is done before and after matches, but during the match, there would, implement what you learn and problem solve. So, Vanch, I think that's a big point of what I wanted to also say is that problem solving is a big part of the sport. And I think it's what we really admire from a Rafa or a Novak or a Roger, Serena, all these legends. They've been able to, fight themselves out of trouble all by themselves. And we love to see that. Look what Djokovic did against Tsitsipas in the finals. He was able to come back and win that match being 2 sets down. And he figured it out, and Tsitsipas couldn't figure it out. Maybe that's the reason why Tsitsipas is so upset about it. He's still thinking about that match going, well, man, if I would have had a coach, maybe after the match, they told him something that he couldn't figure out. And he's like, you guys would have just told me that during the match. Maybe I could have, held off Djokovic and won that match. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think I like to see the players having to solve their own problems and see who's going to hit the most important shot at the best time and keep their cool. So personally, I don't think it's a good thing. I think what makes tennis great is that there is no coaching. I think it'd do more harm than good. Maybe the only good it would do is I think it would actually, and I don't think that Tsitsipas is thinking about this. I think it would actually add more drama to the game, because I think you'd actually see arguments between the two coaches. I mean, between the coach and the player. I think sometimes the player would basically tell their coach to shut up, so it'd be more interesting. Maybe even a coach could get so into it that he might even annoy the other player, and so you might have the person on the other side, the other player, get involved with the coach of his opponent and kind of get into a fight. So I mean that could be kind of fun because now you can't even argue the lines anymore. It's just the machine calling the lines. So like it or not, we used to love when McEnroe and Connors and Becker and a lot of these players would kind of go off on the lines people, because you had that human element. I think if you let the coaches in, it actually wouldn't do the game any good, but it would maybe create some more drama. I bet you there would be some very uncomfortable conversations, especially if they were mic'd up, which I think if you're going to allow coaching, it should at least at the bare minimum be mic'd up. So it's interesting for us. We can see these relationships unfold on the court, and we can, eavesdrop on the drama and then also learn some things about strategy and technique and all that. That's where it'd be good. But we would lose so much of what we love about the sport, which is basically the problem solving. And it wouldn't be fair to the players who don't have the money to have a ton of coaches. So I'm just going to kind of end the broadcast there, read a couple more comments. I just wanted to come on real quick because I saw this article. I thought it was interesting. Daddy should be able to play instead of him. The mental aspect and the problem solving in tennis is just amazing. It would suck to lose that with coaching. I wouldn't mind coaching between sets, but when they're on the court, yeah, I mean, coaching in between sets even, I I guess that's okay. I guess coaching in between sets is okay, but I kind of like the players having to figure out everything on their own. I like that part of it. Honestly, when I hear Stefano say it shows me the next gen are mentally weak. So what do you think? Is this Tsitsipas being mentally weak? I don't know if you can necessarily say that. I mean, yes, he did fall short against Djokovic, but I think over the last 7 or 8 months, he's been extremely mentally tough. He's won a lot of tough matches. He's had a great attitude. He's working hard. He's getting the results. I don't necessarily want to say Tsitsipas is mentally weak. I just don't agree with the idea of having coaches on the court, especially I'd imagine if it was in between every point that maybe from the stands they would do that, or would they be sitting on the court? I don't know what Sissipas's idea is. It'd get really ugly if they're coaching in the stands in between every point, which again could make for some interesting fights. But that's about all the benefit I see of it. Playing devil's advocate at Laver Cup, I enjoy hearing Federer and Nadal give advice, but that's when it's on side changes. Yeah, that's enjoyable, and I think we also is it that we enjoy that there's coaching, or is it that we're really, privileged to kinda hear what Federer and Nadal have to say? I think it becomes interesting when the players are coaching each other. That's another aspect that we don't really ever get to see. The players are coaching each other, legends are coaching each other, so I get that, and that was pretty cool, but, I don't know. I don't personally, um agree with Tsitsipas, and so I just wanna come on and see what you guys thought. Definitely, if you're watching the replay, leave your comments after you watch this video or as you're watching this video, and you wanna see more videos like this and more tennis tips, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next video.